Hello and welcome to the channel, where history doesn't whisper, it roars, where forgotten moments are unearthed. And truth isn't just told, it's felt. If you're new here, do yourself a favor. Subscribe, like, share this with that one friend who thinks they know history. Because today, we're not just telling a story. We're waking up a monster that was born on July 7th, 1937. It began with a gunshot, or at least that's what they say, a single bullet. In the dark, near a bridge, the Marco Polo Bridge, just outside Beijing. That night, Japanese troops were conducting military exercises. China's troops were stationed nearby. Then came the shot. To this day, no one knows who fired it. Some say it was a mistake. Some say it was a setup. But what happened next was no accident. Japan accused China of aggression, demanded entry into a small nearby town to search for a missing soldier. China said no. Within hours, artillery lit up the sky, and a local skirmish turned into something monstrous. This was the start of the Second Sino-Japanese War. But it wasn't just a war between two nations. It was a bloodbath that would spill into the streets of Nanjing, to the lives of millions, and eventually into the very veins of World War II. Let's break it down. By 1937, Japan was hungry, not for peace, but for power. They had already taken Manchuria in 1931 and renamed it Manchukuo. The League of Nations condemned them. Japan left the League. No apologies, no retreat. Japan had tasted conquest, and they wanted more. China, under Chiang Kai-shek, was fractured. Warlords ruled regions. Communists under Mao were rising. The nationalists were barely holding it all together. Japan saw weakness and opportunity. The Marco Polo Bridge Incident gave them the excuse. A perfect spark. The Japanese military began a full-scale invasion. City by city they moved. Fast, brutal, merciless. They captured Beijing, then Tianjin, and they didn't stop. By December, they reached Nanjing, and that's where the world stopped breathing. What happened in Nanjing wasn't just war, it was evil. The rape of Nanjing. Over 6 weeks, Japanese troops massacred civilians. Over 200,000 people slaughtered. Women raped, children murdered, families destroyed, and the world watched. With silence, with fear, with political calculations. The West didn't step in. Not then. But this wasn't just China's war anymore. It was the opening act to the global nightmare that would follow. Japan's aggression pushed the U.S. to impose sanctions. Cut off oil, cut off trade. Japan retaliated by planning something bigger. Pearl Harbor. Yes, the seeds of Pearl Harbor were planted at the Marco Polo Bridge, because July 7th, 1937 wasn't just about a gunshot. It was about an empire on the rise, a continent about to bleed, and a world pretending it wasn't happening. China would lose millions in that war. Cities burned, lives lost. Yet their resistance held. Now and Chang even formed a temporary alliance against Japan, the enemy of my enemy. And by the time the U.S. entered the war in 1941, the Pacific was already drowning in fire. So what really happened that night near that ancient stone bridge? Was it a trap, a misfire, or destiny pulling the trigger? We may never know. But we do know this. July 7th is not just a date. It's a warning. A reminder that wars don't always start with declarations. Sometimes they begin with silence and spiral from there. So next time someone tells you World War II began in 1939, ask them what happened in China 2 years before, because that day, that night, changed everything. If this story made you feel something, anger, curiosity, chills, let it live on. Hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, share it with someone who still believes history is black and white. Because on this channel, we don't just remember, we revive. One untold moment at a time. See you tomorrow, because history never sleeps.